take up one right, okay, 745.
Welcome back to another episode of the Pilot Network Podcast. I'm Matt, your co-host. Adam's out flying the line today, but I am joined by Gavin Curry from PLANEFORM, one of our longest sponsors here at TPN. Welcome, Gavin. How's it going?
Hey, everyone. It's good to be here, and thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to come and share a little bit about our business.
Absolutely. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself? What's your aviation background? Where do you come from?
Yeah, I don't have any flying experience outside of military flying, and I've been in about for almost 7 years now, and I fly C2s out of North Island in San Diego.
Nice location.
Yeah, it's truly kind of a really awesome and highly sought after tour for Navy guys, and pretty hard to get. So I'm lucky to have it, and it's been a lot of fun. And of course, that's fed and aided a lot of other side interests that kind of led to PLANEFORM. But it's really great. Have a lot of fun out here.
Sure. Yeah, Southern California is pretty amazing. I've been out there lots. Tell us. So you mentioned PLANEFORM. Tell us a little bit about the business and what PLANEFORM is and how you got started. Just kind of talk me through it.
Yeah, PLANEFORM is a self-started metal fabrication company, and we specialize in making aviation novelties. It got started almost pretty much on accident. I came home from my last deployment, let's just say my first deployment out of San Diego, and heavily into metalworking and welding as a lifelong interest, basically, since I was a young teenager. When I got home, I wanted to spend some money on a small CNC plasma torch that I could keep in my garage to help make some car parts. And as I got it set up and started and, convinced my wife, Katie, to take that plunge on investing some of the money on a pretty expensive tool. First part was, make something small and see what the machine can do. And I happened to think to myself to make a C2 shaped bottle opener to try out. And that's really where it started. The listeners out there know what we do make. Literally came from that. So I brought that to work after cutting out the C2 shaped bottle opener in my garage. Everyone loved it and wanted to find one, and I put a picture of it on Facebook too. And all my friends from the air wing, Hornet guys, Hawkeye pilots, Hilo pilots, they're like, "Oh, that's amazing. Where can I get one? And how do I get one? How can I get 50? How can I get 100?"
Yeah.
Was the immediate response. So I realized I had pretty much stumbled onto a good idea, and had already kind of started making an initial investment on equipment needed to make something like that.
With the CNC machine, how big is that piece of equipment? Is it something you can easily fit in your garage? Is it like a little 3D printer type thing, or is it one of those big water jet type benches that you see on TV?
It was originally a 2 foot by 2 foot machine, so very portable. But I soon learned the limitations of production and loading material. It's a lot easier to set one job up that uses a lot of material than a little job because it's not efficient that way. So we've gone through a few iterations of expanding the table, and now it's 4 foot by 5 foot, so it takes up half my garage.
Nice. How do you get the designs on there? Do you draw them out in some sort of CAD software or something?
Yeah, everything that we cut, I find if someone says, "Hey, I want a C-130 bottle opener," or something, this is an example, then I'll go find the exact schematic of the plane that they're looking for, one way or the other. Sometimes that involves me asking the customer for some detailed schematic, because I'm not all knowing of every kind of airplane there is out there.
Sure.
I'm pretty resourceful, but I sometimes need a little help from the customer, and then I'll bring that into CAD and draw it out, make sure all the lines and vectors are smooth, and then get to cutting.
Cool. How long does it take from start to finish? Say you're doing a certain design for the very first time.
I would say the design part can take, if I have to really finding the drawings is the longest part. Turning it into a vector, it might take me 20 or 30 minutes. depending on the complexity or what's trying to be developed. And of course, I've gotten a lot faster at that over time. When I first started, it used to take me forever to just do one, and now I can knock it out really quickly, pretty much no matter what it is.
You kind of have to simplify the drawings, I'd imagine, a little bit to make them so the equipment can cut it out properly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The cutters, all the ones we own, have certain limitations, and we've been working for almost 2 years now, and you learn what to omit and what you can keep. We do pride ourselves on having the most accurate piece we can deliver to a customer, so it is important to try to preserve those details and make it exactly what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the website right now, and it looks like you get pretty intricate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we try to keep all those fine details. We actually recently, if you follow our Instagram, which is just at PLANEFORM, we put a lot of our day-to-day little small projects we do or custom things that are not necessarily on the website as an orderable item. We just made a custom PAVOK, Air Force Spec Ops helicopter for squadron out there in England, and I was able to get a lot of the antenna details and whatnot, so it was pretty sweet.
So one of the customers that you've come up with is doing little party favors for weddings. Is that?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. My business partner is my wife, and Katie. She's really networked well with other military spouses and friends, and she's got our foot in the door a few times to do party favors, or in that case there was one couple came to us and asked if we could do 200 miniature Super Hornet bottle openers as a party favor for their wedding.
That's awesome.
And we've had some requests like that, so which is really great and flattering that someone would want us to involve our products into the most important day they've ever had.
Yeah.
Well, it's awesome.
It is not easy coming up with a good party favor for a wedding. I know we struggled with that for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and to go back to the beginning part of your question, where did it come from, and how did we get the idea for the business? Once we stumbled upon the incredible response to this first bottle opener, we realized that there was an incredible vacuum, basically, in novelties for pilots that are actually what pilots are looking for. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of aviation things out there that are, that you can get, and they're okay, and they're either too kind of cheap or not what you're looking for, or like way too expensive because it's an actual part of an airplane or something.
Sure. So
we're trying to work in that middle void, and it's been very successful so far, surprisingly successful.
That's awesome. It's just a part-time gig right now because you're active duty still, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That juggling act, since it wasn't really necessarily planned, has created quite a ride for both Katie and I. But it's led to Katie. She was an interior designer for Pottery Barn for several years, and she ended up leaving her job over it. That's how busy it is.
Oh, wow. So she works at the business full time then?
That's correct.
Yeah. Wow.
Because I cannot peel back hours, as you could imagine, at the squadron.
Sure, no doubt.
She's the lifeblood and all the sweat and tears behind the scenes for the most part. She does most of the heavy lifting, I would say.
How do you guys juggle that day-to-day, kind of your day job and what she's doing? How do you guys integrate on how you get the day-to-day stuff done?
Yeah, for the most part, on an average day where I'm not on deployment, I'll get out the door and go to work, do the 07 showtime at work and get home by 4 or 5, hopefully, if I'm not on the night page flying. And then I pretty much head to the garage and answer emails and design or cut whatever is needed to be cut. Meanwhile, Katie, during that day, will fulfill and ship orders that have happened from the day or two before, or a couple days before, that we've already cut and prepared. Usually together when I get home, that's when we do a lot of our combined work that might require 2 people. And she does an awful lot of the mechanical work during the day by herself, which, it can range from cutting stuff, but usually she'll be finishing products, tumbling, sanding, boxing, packaging, shipping. Like, she does everything. She's amazing.
Sure. What's that process look like? So let's say you get the artwork, I'm assuming the CAD is connected to the table and somehow, like, walk me through just the life cycle of exactly how that goes to getting shipped out the door.
Yeah, basically, we do a lot of things besides the bottle openers. We also make art, and as far as a art request goes, someone will say, "Hey, can you make my squadron patch or something like that, or anything custom?" And
Sure.
we'll take the image they send us. I'll sit down and design it into something that's cuttable, kind of like the bottle opener, but that art stuff is a lot more complex. You're working with multiple pieces of metal, multiple layers, possibly paint, and you have to visualize, how am I going to construct this as you're designing it? Otherwise, if you think about that after you've cut, you might have to recut and change things. So I've learned that painful lesson early on, and I still obviously learn lessons daily.
Sure.
But yeah, you go make your CAD file. Once you have it ready, there's a cable link from the computer in the shop there straight to the CNC table. And you get the machine turned on and ready to go and interface and get the computer talking to the actual machine. You load on the chosen material, whatever the customer is looking for. It's usually always steel. It's easiest to work with, and that's what I recommend for everyone else.
How do you choose what kind of material you're using?
Basically, I have recommendations based on what the customer is looking for to try to get them into something that's suitable. But by and large, 95% of our work is just in cold roll steel, which is easy for us to work with and weld and paint.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little heavy, especially if you start getting into complex art. If it's not that, it's probably going to be stainless steel. Like our bottle openers are all stainless because, early on we learned people don't want to have
rusty bottle openers.
Yeah, rusty bottle openers. Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit of a turnoff over time. Really cool at first, not so cool later. So we've evolved in that way. Some art, we've done that as stainless. If it's going to be outside, like one time we made a squadron patch for someone that they mounted on a grill outside in their barbecue pit, which is awesome. And then we worked with some other more exotic materials like titanium, as an example, or copper, which is expensive, and titanium is obviously extremely expensive.
Sure.
But we can really cut anything. If it can conduct electricity, you can cut it with these machines.
So the CNC machine you have, does it have different cutters, or how does it do it exactly? Is it lasers, or is it arc welding, or is it some form of that?
Plasma cutting is similar to the welding process. Basically, I don't know if the average listener here is going to have knowledge of welding, but welding is you strike an arc between an electrode and a metal, and then that arc is super hot, and then you can put in a filler metal that's compatible, melt it, and add it to the material you're joining together, or the two pieces you're joining together in that case. But plasma is very similar. It strikes the arc between the torch and then a material that you're cutting. But once the arc is established, a jet of gas is focused. In this case, it's just compressed air. Mm-hmm. And that creates a hot cutting jet. And when it's coupled up to a machine that has an axis, and you can control the height and then the X and the Y direction, you're able to then, with computer instructions, tell it where to go. And that's how we cut stuff out of metal.
Do you come up with most of the designs yourself, or do you wait for customers to request it, or are you actually going out and trying to make one of every airplane, and then when it comes up, you kind of have it ready to go?
At first, we were inundated with requests because people, the rolling word of mouth was, "Oh, hey, check out this F-18 bottle opener," and then someone's like, "Oh man, I want to get an F-16. So,
right.
The Air Force buddies asked me for that. And then someone, some tanker guy, nudge, like, "Oh, hey, I want to get a KC-135. So initially we were inundated with requests to get different airframes going. Over time that slows down because now, today I've got over 250 designs that I have ready to go. So it's not often that someone requests something I don't have.
Right.
It's usually a small tweak. When it comes to art, that's all custom because we don't, I'm not going to sit down and just swag a custom squadron patch and put in all the legwork if no one's going to buy it.
Right.
But we're actually kind of turning the corner on some of the art stuff now, and we're going to offer in the future some art pieces that are ready to go and already designed as just a concept to try it out, just to see how that goes.
Your garage must just be piled with this stuff.
It's full.
Look at some of these pictures.
Yeah, the that's the understatement probably. But It takes a constant battle to keep the space clean. We clean up every day. Got to have good shopkeeping practices, and I think kind of belonging into the meticulous world of aviation helps. I know what a sanitary workspace that's industrial is supposed to look like. You definitely can't white glove check my garage, but I keep it clean every day after grinding and cutting and stuff, because that degrades your work over time. Or if you do some painting somewhere, you can't have all the specks and dust fall into it. So you got to keep it clean. And there's a lot of trips to the metal recycler to throw away the scraps and get a couple pennies on the dollar there for what you spent. And the constraints of the small workspace are very real, though. It's tough. We could be doing more, and we have visions to do a lot more. We just need a little bit more room. So next place we move, we're definitely looking into having a bigger shop, which is actually in the near future. So we'll see what we get.
Yeah, that's cool. As you were growing the business, did you and Katie just are you figuring it out as you go, or did you have some sort of experience building a business previously, or are you literally just making it up as demand presents itself? I
would say since we didn't really foresee the need to have a business, or didn't intentionally start out trying to find a business in that regard, we were definitely flying by the seat of the pants at first. And neither of us had created a business in the first place. So learning about, licensing and getting your business registered and tax season, that first one was definitely a learning curve. But,
sure,
we figured out how to create a legitimate business. It's becoming easier, and we still are the only two people that, do all that work. But as we go on, once we had the initial seed corn of the idea, now it does have a vision, and it has organization behind it. But at first, certainly not. It was fully reactionary. It's just trying to figure out how to wrestle the beast of a small business.
Right.
Which is what I would say to anyone who's thinking about it. It's surprisingly a lot of work, but I would recommend anyone just to climb in and get their hands dirty, because you could figure it out as you go.
Did you have any mentors along that process? Anyone who gave you guys advice on how to build this thing?
We've been able to get a decent amount of advice, both Katie and I's parents, about what's a sound business practices. My dad, he owns his own business as well, so we get a lot of information from him just about what it's like to run a small business and how he's negotiated some things, because he's been doing that for a few years.
Sure.
Since he got out. And then Katie's dad is a CPA.
Oh, nice. That's
for a major accounting firm.
Handy to have in the family right there.
Yeah, the finance side is well covered as well. If I have a question or don't really understand a certain rule, he's able to definitely clear that up for me. So that's a whole nother beast for sure. Got hats off to people who can manage money like that.
Yeah, that's always the hard part, especially with such a material intensive. I mean, you've got so much capital dropped into materials and equipment and all that sort of stuff. There's probably a lot of depreciation and cost of goods sold.
Yeah, absolutely. Figure out when you buy a machine if you're going to depreciate it all in 1 year or turn it into an asset. And a harsh reminder of some things that I kind of glossed over in college at some point.
Yeah, no doubt. You mentioned that you've got some longer term goals and probably some shorter term goals for PLANEFORM and the business in general. What does that look like?
Yeah, like I kind of alluded to, we're going to try to change the type of artwork we're able to produce and put up on either our main website or our Etsy store, which we have both. Mm-hmm. Have more than just bottle openers. That's what we're known for, but we want to have a little bit more type of product coming. So we're working on developing that currently, and we'll be able to unveil that when the time comes. So different type of products, still in the same wheelhouse that we've created, the aviation novelty, but changing that. We want to add larger equipment once we have a space that can hold it, so we can work more efficiently. We imagine basically that we could go through the same muscle movements we do now and create 3 to 4 times the results if we just simply had larger machines that could do more work for the same amount of setup. Mm-hmm. So mostly efficiency related for us in the future. And then Katie's had some really good ideas with some aviation-based products that might be more involved with, like, jewelry or stationary paper favors, things that you might have at a wedding or, so on and so forth. So we're we're looking at getting a laser that will cut organic things instead of just metal as well to help out with that. So
Okay, like wood and plastic and whatnot.
yeah, exactly.
Sure.
So we'll have hopefully a lot of different products in the next year or so.
Yeah. Do you how do you paint the stuff? Like, do you powder coat it, or are you using some sort of other method?
Yeah, and it's just paint, usually automotive quality paint,
Okay.
and it's painted basically on request or whatever the customer says what colors they need, and
Sure.
we'll throw down the drop cloths and cordon off a section of the garage and get it done there in the shop.
Very cool. So, what we find is when we started TPN, Adam and I, we found that so many pilots tend to be entrepreneurial. Where do you think that comes from? Because obviously you embody that yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think whether or not someone's born with that quality kind of is irrelevant when you look under the microscope of what kind of person the average military aviator or even a civilian aviator. I don't have a lot of experience with civilian guys, but I'm sure they're pretty much just the same.
Yeah.
You get taught, a lot of things about decision making, and you get taught a lot about how to really be good at your job, and then you're thrust into some kind of scenario, invariably at what point becomes all about you, what you've learned, and your will to adapt or change the rules, or maybe ignore some rules, but know why, and ultimately succeed at something. So I think that culmination, skill and decision making, and data analysis that a pilot would have is all the same skills that an entrepreneur is faced with actually. Mm-hmm. And I think that just your ability to succeed when you're placed into a situation that's not clearly defined of how to succeed is what the common tie between an entrepreneur and, say a military pilot would have.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I think that's ultimately the reason why the type A personality, the pilot personality, tends to be so entrepreneurial. You hit the nail on the head. I think it's just being surrounded by undefined scenarios. You have to figure out a way out of it, or what to proceed to next, create a path, and then go ahead and follow that. And I think business has so many parallels in those as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You could be thrust into any kind of scenario, either before you're flying, after you're flying, and all of that stuff. There's some parallel to owning a business with any of those things. It's really interesting looking back and reflecting on your question there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Well, thanks so much for talking with me for a little while. I think this is something we'd like to do a couple more times and kind of see as the business grows. And obviously, you're integrated in TPN. You've been a sponsor for a long time, so we just want to say thank you for your supporting TPN, the aviation community, and kind of sharing your artwork. I think you have your slogan is throttle the bottle, which I think we can all relate to. Going and getting that beer after you get done flying and whatnot. If someone is interested and wants to get in touch with you, or say thank you for what you do, or just take a look at what you guys have going on, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, best way is to visit our website, www.planeform.com. We got links on there to our email, which is to sales@planeform.com if they want to get a hold of us. Email is definitely the best way, given our busy schedules that we have to keep outside of the business.
No doubt.
And we greatly appreciate that you guys giving us the chance to come on today, and a chance to sponsor an awesome organization like TPN. And then, everyone on TPN has been more than gracious at accepting our products and keeping the dream alive for sure.
Good. When's the next big push or holiday coming up?
At this point, Christmas is the next largest thing on the horizon. So
yeah.
Get it in early because it gets a pretty big backlog.
Well, we wish the best of luck to you, and we can't wait to hear how Planeform is growing and see where you are next time you're on the podcast.
Yeah, sounds good, man. We appreciate it. Look forward to coming back.